hook up with boyfriend and booger. Don't know me, then look up. I be in the clouds. Pool full of Henny, I drink and I drown. Daytime better come correct. Ain't playing at your best, then you will get left. If it don't involve money, then I don't accept. If it don't involve money, then I don't accept. Something like this.
scope out of my fist, we fire starters. One out of a million will reach those heights. Always had a feeling that I won't deny that work. Never could die. Look in my eyes, I'm on the rocks, rise.
Am I audible? Am I audible, everyone? Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome back. Good evening, everyone. I hope you are all fine. I hope you're all good. So we are back with our conference ARPCon 2020. I hope your day one was lit. For us all, it was lit, and I hope that you learned a lot yesterday. Day one, there were amazing speakers, and everything went just fine. And I hope that it will be repeated again this day. So again, we are just about to start, but before we start, let's have some feel about the audience. Let's have some feel about the conference, like the energy that we built yesterday, the energy that we had yesterday, the motivation, the environment that we created, overall productive environment that we created yesterday. I want again the same thing this day because excitement should not be lowered in any case. Okay, so before starting the conference, please invite everyone you can. Please invite every person that you can think that he will be benefited from this conference, cybersecurity conference. So please share this link. Please share to everyone that you know, and try to bring as many people as you can so that we can make this conference a great success. Okay. So now let me just fix this up. So have you learned some great things yesterday? Yeah, I suppose everyone enjoyed the talk, and today the same thing is going to happen. Six speakers, and six talks, and everything will be just fine for today also. So I would like to have some fun in the chat. Not that fun, but some like motivation and something that you want to know here would be just ask in the chat if you have any doubt towards any speaker, and if you want to ask some questions, you can also go to Twitter with Ask AskArpCon tag. Okay, hashtag. So now what I'm going to do is I will going to just switch the video and take some time to appreciate our uh, sponsors here like we did yesterday in our own way. So let's make some time for them also, and we will be getting back just in a minute or so to introduce our first talk, and we will just get started into it. Okay, so the environment should be great here. Now let's go for some time and get back right away. Thank you. Okay. Okay, guys. So we are back again. So, are you ready? Is everyone ready for day two talks? We'll be starting just in a couple of minutes. Okay, so let me just start the conference without wasting much time of yours. Now, we will be introducing our first speaker for tonight. Now, I will like to invite Mr. Rakshit Tandon, who is a cybercrime investigator, and he has worked with the government for many years, and he has many years of experience in cybersecurity. And I'm damn sure you will learn a lot of things based on his experience and his journey in cybersecurity. So today's topic for Mr. Rakshit Tandon is cyber crimes in COVID-19. As we are all familiar with the COVID-19 status, and we all know that how much cyber crimes has increased in this part of the year. And we all know that how much alarming the rate has become. Many big tech giants have been compromised, their data has been breached, and many infrastructure has been set up to set up security measures in this COVID-19. And every work is like getting up online. So we need to protect our assets, our digital assets in COVID-19. So how can we do that? How the crimes have increased, and what are the factors and case studies? All we will learn with this amazing talk. So welcome, Mr. Rakshit Tandon. Now you can start, and we will switch to your screen.
All right. First of all, Prateek and your whole team, ARPCon, congratulations to all of you for this amazing virtual conference. I've been following it from day one, and I have seen the overwhelming response from all the young cybersecurity researchers who have joined in. I'm sorry for joining like this, though had a committed program today, but then again, we are all dependent on internet and technology, and there's been some major failure on the broadband line, and that's why I have to come out to find some connectivity and talk to you all. But this happens, it's all right. So, as the topic given to me is cybercrime during COVID 19, so there's no need to tell you guys that it has been on a very high surge and heavy increase in the numbers of cybercrimes reported. There has been some common trends which we have been seeing. That was increase in phishing and a lot of malicious domains we could find. Then we had seen definitely have seen tremendous increase in ransomware viruses, and we have seen attacks of data breaches. We have found a lot of malwares which were data harvesting malwares. Then we have also seen an increase in COVID theme based attacks. And then, apart from that, we have seen, like as it was quoted by the Interpol report of 2020, that there was millions of domains which were booked by these hackers on on the name and trends of COVID-19. So these were the few trends which we saw, and with my personal experience of working uh, with the law enforcement agencies, recently I was working on a project with the UNODC on cyber-enabled human trafficking, where we have also seen that during COVID-19, because a lot of people were jobless, and there was a lot of increase of these issues of trafficking and online trafficking, sexual extortion, sexual exploitation. So there has been a surge. And if you ask me as an investigator, what I have seen in this I would say the last year itself, was a trend where anonymity was increasing, creating challenges for investigators. So there was, in any case, if you see, there was people were using proxy IPs, they were using Tor browser, they were using Proton mail, and such things were there. And that made it a little challenging for the investigator to do the digital footprinting. And also in the attacks of ransomware, we have seen that most of the decryptors were not available, or it was difficult to decrypt the algorithm they created for the new ransomwares. So a lot of companies, because they were working from home and the security levels were low, they were not shielded in their secured network environment at offices. So that is also one of the reasons for increasing the case studies. So I think platforms like this, and especially not to mention that Honorable Prime Minister recently, when he was speaking at the RACE Summit, at the Artificial Intelligence Summit, has mentioned that India is all set to be a proper digital India, and artificial intelligence is going to play a very major role. So, my submission to all the young researchers is to start working on tools and devices which can prevent attacks with the help of the existing data sets which is available. I think that is one important thing. Second is I had my internship program with the Gurugram Police this year, and in my internship program I had 450 young dynamic researchers who joined my internship. And when I was working with them for a month, I realized that uh, we in our country we have lots of good brains. The only problem is that they don't get the right mentorship and the right direction. And I think conferences like these are those platforms which can connect you with such kind of brains, which can help become a good mentor for you and which can help you. So, if somebody asks me what is the future is cybersecurity, no doubt. And with this new normal in which we are living, where everything is going to go online, right from my children who are working and taking their education online to people who are running their offices online. And there has been a lot of innovation into terms of digital technology. IoT is going to be the new thing. And if I look at the industry 4.0, the industry revolution, where we'll have embedded softwares and IoTs running the machinery and without human interference, then the data is going to be the major issue. So, data protection, data security, data encryption, and how to prevent data breaches, that would be, I think, the major area to focus on. So let's flow with the future, and we have so innovative platforms coming up. In my own startup, which in my company where I have launched Hackershala, I have also launched a live platform called Hacking Brawl. And to support, we have also launched CodeSnack. So I have created a three-layer environment which I call Learn, Work, and Earn (LWE). And with the people like all of you guys, we are going to make this endeavor a real fruitful endeavor where young researchers could learn, practically work, and earn. And with my experience with law enforcement agencies, which is increasing day by day, and the kind of case studies I work on, every day there is a new challenge. And that is where you guys plays a very important role, where you can develop tools to help the law enforcement agencies of the country to prevent such cyber crimes. On this platform and on this wonderful evening, I would also, because Prateek has been connected with me for a long time, I've been watching all his success journey, all his friends, all of you together who have made this ARPCon such a successful event with so many. I saw the list of speakers, wonderful speakers, and you also had a hackathon and CTFs and all those interesting things. So, young people, this is one which I always say is that number one, just learn the law before you start working. The data protection bill is on the shelf. It is still in the parliament. बहुत जल्दी वो launch हो जाएगा. You will have the data protection bill out. IT Act is going to be modified. Just don't take any trouble on your heads, because I know these young researchers, when you are working and when you are doing work online, you have to be very careful. There's one very small word which is called a very small thin line, which makes ethical to unethical, and then you get into trouble. So I don't want any of my researcher who is a cyber security enthusiast to get into any trouble. And second, there is the high time now. We need to develop tools to also to also stop fake information, because India is fighting this trouble right now, misinformation, because there's a lot of manipulative information which is being flooded on social media. Recently, you saw the example of Bangalore, where there were riots. We had to even impose curfew just because of some fake information on social media. So, with the help of artificial intelligence, we can develop certain tools which can prevent dissemination of fake information or misinformation. And also, because today there is a lot of young kids whose screen time has increased because of virtual education. From morning to evening, they have to be online, they have to go for their classes. So it's very important for us to create some mechanisms to have protection for those young children from wrong content or inappropriate content. I think all of you who are watching me must have heard a lot of issues where online classes are going on and somebody bombards the online classes and creates problems for these children and schools and teachers. So it is high time that we can also work on certain tools which can create a kind of a prevention, or I can say a kind of a firewall for unauthorized access to such video sharing tools or classing online classes or e-education, because these are the tools which every school and college right now is looking forward to. So with this last 7 8 months what we have lived through, the new normal during COVID-19, and if you can go through the reports which have come out from Interpol and all, you will all come up with some wonderful ideas, and that is all India is about. You have lots of support from government agencies. Government of India has started a volunteer program on cybercrime.gov.in. Government of India has started internship programs under the NCIIPC. And let me also tell you that why this conference is very important, because this month is being declared as the National Cyber Security Awareness Month by Government of India. So if you all young researchers can visit nciipc.gov.in, you can find an option to engage with the Government of India. You can find an option to do internships. You can find an option to be a part of the think tank. Similarly, the website cybercrime.gov.in is creating a database of volunteers who would like to help in their key areas, schools, colleges, and domains. So I think all this is a good indication that how cybersecurity is being taken very seriously. Not to mention, even police agencies have started hiring cyber forensic experts. And I'm very proud in sharing that few of my interns who had done internship at Gurugram Police or Hyderabad Police have been selected into the police framework, and they are working with the legal agencies. So I think all this is very positive. Let's work on a positive note. And yes, I would also, it's kind of a request because I can't see you guys, but yes, uh, with the kind of viewership I was seeing for the last first day of the conference and the second day, and the kind of comments were coming. So you are all very thirsty learners. And that is what makes cybersecurity very important. You always have to be in the learning mode. So if people call me an expert, and Prateek has honored me by calling me as a keynote speaker, but Bacho, I am still a learner. At the age of 48, I am still learning. I have a 20 years of learning experience, but cybersecurity is such a thing that every day I am learning. Every day is a new day for me, and I can never call myself an expert. And I really object when people in the conferences start calling me expert. But yes, I don't mind if they call me a 20-year-old experienced student of cybersecurity. I will not mind. So with this note, I congratulate all of you. I'm so sorry that I had to engage with you like this and I could not even run a presentation or slide. But my idea was to congratulate, my idea was to just share my insight. and the idea was to uh, show my support to such initiatives. And in spite of this technical glitch and challenge which I had right now, I had to come like this on my roads of my society. But then again, thank you, Pratik. I wish all of you participants best of luck. And remember, I'm always there. You can connect with me online. You can search me right from LinkedIn to Facebook to Twitter and Instagram. I'm always available. And I keep posting my internship programs, which I would love all of you young uh, students to be a part of. That is how I've made such a huge pool of resources which I have right now. I've been running this internship program since 2013. We started with Haryana Police, and we are still continuing. We had successful 8 batches, and now we also started this with Hyderabad Police. So, friends, these programs will keep on coming. You're most welcome to be a part of it. You can find me on Hackershala or Hacking Brawl or CourseNag also. And rakshitandon.com is my site. So, with this, I'm not going to take a very technical session for all of you. So, there are other technical speakers for the evening who will be there to join you. So, with this note, I congratulate all of you once again. And thank you so much. God bless you all. Jai Hind. Thank you. Over to the host.
Daytime better call me back. Ain't playing at your best, then you will get left. If it don't involve money, then I don't accept. If it don't involve money, then I don't accept. Roll a little something like this.
Okay, so is it started? Okay, so thank you so much, Rakshit sir, for your wonderful knowledge and wisdom. So, guys, it's high time for us to, like sir said, it's high time for us to stay safe online. And we all know that how much frauds are increasing, how much attacks are increasing. And if it's not a corporate environment, even if it is an individual environment, like you are facing some issues, like they contact you for your bank details, or they just like take your password with any technique that they employ. Means in this time social engineering is the best and the easiest way to like breach or hack someone. But you need to be aware about all the attacks that are being happening, even if you are not in a technical field, even if you are not knowing, if, you know, even if you not are in the cybersecurity domain, you should know that you should stay online, because even if a non-technical person, he might face issues, and he face a huge loss in his life because of that. And even like we are technical people, we know cybersecurity, we want to learn it, and we are familiar with this field, so we know it technically, what how it does, how it works, how the whole world is, and how many attacks are being increasing here. So I was just like telling you to just stay safe, and just make people aware. Like if you know something, you should share it. It's not like that people say that I know something, why should I tell someone else? If I know something and it's benefiting me, why should I tell him that he will know it and he will like benefit just like what I did? So this is not the case. You need to spread knowledge. That is why I am saying that. So this is not what you should do here. So now let's move on ahead. Let's like now introduce our second speaker. Before introducing second speaker, let's just appreciate our sponsor once again, all of them. I will list all of the names here, but let's just roll the intros. and we will get back to our second speaker of today, day 2. Okay, so let's get started.
So hello everyone. So previously talked by Rakshit sir is really informative. I hope you can get some amazing information how to apply the internship and all these things. So our next speaker is Shivam Bathla. So Shivam Bathla is a security researcher at Pentester Academy, and his topic is attacking the JWT, the Guardian. And so the talk is live. So let's dive into it. So Shivam, I will hand over to you. You can share your screen.
Yeah, thanks, Pratik. Hello ARPCon. I hope you guys are having fun. And today I'm going to be talking about JWT security attacking the Guardian. So, a little bit about me. I'm Shivam, security researcher at Pentester Academy and Attack Defense. And I was a developer who turned into a security researcher. And I have presented research at RootCon 13. It was on Wireshark, Wireshark plugin toolkit for helping you analyze stored and live packets and do threat hunting using it. So you can check it out later. And then I'm interested in web application security, RE, malware analysis, exploit development, and cloud security. And I even have a working experience in Linux kernel exploitation. So you can find me on LinkedIn, and my Twitter handle is @_Shivam Bathla. So, a little bit about our company, Pentester Academy, and I hope most of you must have heard of it. So, we make online courses on cybersecurity related topics, and currently we have 40 plus courses with the HD videos, and we go from like basic level to advanced level stuff. And the trainers are all experts having 10 plus years of experience and have taught in well renowned conferences like Black Hat and DEF CON, and we focus on hands-on approach, so learning by doing, and that's where attack defense comes in. So here we have labs on any topic that you can think of, and we are even adding constantly to it. So currently we have 1900 plus labs, and we have 35 plus categories and 130 plus subcategories with 100 plus challenges added every month. And I would say it's most affordable labs in the world, so it's most affordable offering in the world, and you should check that out later. So now about the talk. So firstly, I'll be giving a short primer on what JWT is, or it's pronounced as JOT, as mentioned in the specs. So we'll be talking about what it is and how it fits in a bigger picture, so that those having a vague idea can actually come on the same page. And then we'll be talking about the meat of the talk, that's attacking part, which is the fun stuff. So, and then after that, I'll conclude with some best practices so that you know, like how you can get yourself secured as a developer and even as an end user. So there would be some tips. So firstly, what JWT is. So there is an RFC 7519 which describes about JWT. So it's an open standard that defines a compact and self-contained way for securely transmitting information between parties as a JSON object. This information can be verified and is trusted because it is digitally signed. And JWT can be signed using a secret key and a public-private key pair. So I think I might have left most of you in confusion. So in simple terms, a JWT consists of three parts. Like you can see here, we have the header, the payload, and the signature. So here's a sample JWT token. And you still might be thinking, I mentioned some JSON objects being sent. So where are they? So actually it's base64 URL encoded. So if you head over to jwt.io, you can paste in your token and you get the decoded view. So currently, as you can see, we have the header, which contains two claims, two parameters, that is the type of the token and the algorithm. So this algorithm will come handy to create the signature, which will come to later. So the algorithm is HS256 in this case, which is HMAC SHA 256. Then we have the payload. So we have some key value pairs here. So these are called as claims. So basically, these are the statements that this token is going to make based on the entity submitting the token. So let's say if there is some user who has logged in into a web application, so there would be some claim, say, let's say ID Hello everyone. I am Shivam from Pentester Academy, and today I'm going to be talking on JWT security attacking the Guardian. So, sorry about the slides. So, I forgot to share the screen. A little bit of introduction about myself. So, I am a researcher at Pentester Academy and Attack Defense, and I was a developer turned into a security researcher, and I have presented research at RootCon 13. So there we presented on Wipeshark, which is a Wireshark plugin toolkit to help you analyze stored and live packets. So it will look for some signatures in there, and you can do threat hunting using it. And these are my topic of interest: web application security, RE, malware analysis, vulnerability research, cloud security, and I even have working experience in Linux kernel exploitation. So you can follow me on LinkedIn, and my Twitter handle is @_Shivam Bathla. So, a little bit about our company, Pentester Academy. So, we provide online cybersecurity courses, and currently we have 40 plus courses. And these are all recorded videos where we go from basic to advanced stuff. And we have expert trainers having 10 plus years of experience, and all have presented their research and work in DEF CON, Black Hat, and other notable conferences. And we believe in hands-on approach. So that's where attack defense comes in. And here you can find labs on like any topic that you can think of, and we are also adding more to it. So currently we have 1900 plus labs, which span over to 35 plus categories and 130 plus subcategories. And 100 plus challenges are added every month. So that's an average. And uh, we have most affordable offerings in the world, which you can actually see from the pricing, and you can check that out later. So now about the talk. So I'll be giving a quick primer on JWT, and we pronounce it as JOT as mentioned in the specs. So we'll be covering what JWT is, and then how it fits in a bigger picture, and then we'll be talking about the attacking part, which is the fun stuff, and I'll cover some vulnerabilities there, and then I'll leave you with some best practices so that you can actually keep it secure. So this talk is intended for both the developers and the attackers, so you know like what can go wrong and how to prevent it. So without further ado, let's get started. So firstly, what JWT is. So there is an RFC 7519 which describes about JWT. So it's an open standard that defines a compact and self-contained way for securely transmitting information between parties as a JSON object. This information can be verified and is trusted because it is digitally signed. JWTs can be signed using a secret key or a public-private key pair. I think I would have left most of you in confusion, because it's not talking about anything which is much clear. So let's clear it up. So in a simple way, it's like we have three parts in a token: the header, the payload, and the signature. And you can see a sample JOT token here. So these are separated by a period, a dot. But you still might be thinking it looks a bit cryptic to me, right? I cannot see where is the JSON object that is being passed. So if you head over to jwt.io and paste in your token, so you can see the decoded view. So here we have the three parts like we discussed: the header, the payload, and the signature. So the signature is what verifies the integrity of the token, and that's how the tokens are secured. So in the header, we can see there are two fields: a type, which tells that this is a JOT token, and then the algorithm, which tells that how the token has to be signed. So the algorithm here is HS256, which is HMAC SHA-256. Then we have the payload. So the payload contains certain key value pairs, and these are called as claims. So these are the statements that this token makes on the behalf of the submitter of the token. So the entity that submits the token would be recognized with these claims on the server side. So in this case, I have put in some dummy claims, but in a regular JOT token, you will find fields like ID or account ID or something like that. Then we have other claims like IAT and EXP, which are issued at and expired, so that the backend can check whether the token is expired or not and when was it issued. And then we have the last part, which is the signature. So in this case, since the algorithm was HS256, so the signature is generated using this same function. We take the base64 URL encoding of the header and the payload, concatenate them with a period, and then we supply in our secret key which is known to the server only, and then this hash is generated. So this is how the token gets verified. Since I have not specified a valid key, so I see an invalid signature here. And now let's see how it really works. So I have a web application, and we have a, Rails API running on the backend. So firstly, the user goes in and logs in by providing their credentials. The server would then authenticate them and return an API access token in response. So now for every subsequent request that this user makes, he would include this token in the authorization header. And when the server accepts these requests, it would see the token, it would extract it and firstly validate it whether the signature is correct or not. If it is correct, then it would send a response to this authenticated request. Otherwise, it would say some message like forbidden or show a login page. So this is how it really works. And now let's get started and attack the guardian. So firstly, we have confidentiality problem. As I already showed you a decoded token, you could see all the fields were there in plain text. So the vanilla Jwt tokens that we are discussing are not meant for providing any confidentiality. In case you want confidentiality, then there is another standard called JWE, which is JSON Web Encryption. So either make use of it or maybe transport your data on some secure sites like HTTPS or make use of crypto. But do not rely on vanilla Jwt tokens to submit any confidential information. So Jwt is just like an ID card. It contains the fields which anyone can read if they possess the token. So never transmit any sensitive information in your Jwt tokens. So now I'll show you a demo. Can you guys see the screen? One second. Can you see the screen, Prateek? So this is the challenge on attack defense called exposed claim. Let me speed up a bit. So here we have a Strapi CMS running on the target server, and we are provided with all the details with which we can grab a token, the credentials of an authenticated user, and the endpoint where we have to send the requests. So that's auth local. And let's get into the lab. Firstly, I'll check the IP address of this machine and check if Strapi is running or not. So I see it is running. And now I'll send an request to auth local and get the Jwt token. So let me speed it. Okay. So I'll pass in the credentials, that is the username and password, and I'll get the credential. Let's pass it through JQ and get it bit formatted. So here you can see I got a Jwt token for this authenticated user, and the role here, as you can see, says that ID is 2, name is authenticated, and description is this is for the authenticated user. So let's grab this token and paste it in jwt.io, and we see that there is a flag claim which is in plain text. So the point here is that whenever you pass anything in this token, in the claim, that's visible to anyone who has the token. So never transmit any sensitive information in your tokens. Now let's get back to the talk. So now let's discuss on another thing, that is vulnerabilities in algorithms and libraries. So firstly, I'll be talking about the none algorithm. So in this algorithm, there is no signature part. So as some of you might be wondering, if there is no signature, there is no way for me to verify the validity of this token, whether this token is coming from a trusted source or not. And that's what the use case of this algorithm is. It is intended to be used in the situations where the token integrity is already been verified. So we know it's coming from a trusted source. And the best part is that the specs say that there are only two algorithms that are mandatory to be implemented. One is HMAC SHA-256 and another is none. So that's like a good moment for the attacker. And so I'll be giving a demo on this after I discuss other vulnerabilities. So let's jump to other vulnerabilities. So these are vulnerabilities in libraries. So first one is Jwt.net, which is a popular JWT library for .NET applications. So in this case, as we know, even as an attacker, if we are able to create a force token, until and unless we know that secret key, we cannot get the token verified by the server. In this case, the issue was that as an attacker, if I'm able to manipulate those payload and I send a token, I get a response saying that, hey, you sent an invalid signature to me. I was expecting this signature, but you gave me something else. So it's like server saying to the attacker, hey, you need to send this value to me to get it accepted. So it's an interesting thread to read, and I would say you should check this out later. And then we have a similar vulnerability in auth WCF service JWT, in which the signature was getting exposed to the attacker. And there are some more issues like if the signature algorithm is defined, but no signature is provided, so it's essentially like the none algorithm. This was an issue in Fusion Auth JWT library. And next one is really interesting one in Cisco Node JOS. The issue was that it was using a standard called JWS, that is JSON Web Signature Standard, to create the JWT tokens. So what happens is it embeds the public key used to verify the signature in the token itself. So when in the verification time, it extracts this public key from the token instead of using that local copy. So what an attacker can do is they can create their own public private key pair, and they can embed their public key and sign the token using their private key. So now once the server gets this token, it will extract the attacker generated public key and verify the token using that. So this is what the vulnerability is, and I find it really interesting. And we have a challenge on it as well. But since we are low on time, so I'll skip this one for the demo. And then we had another issue in Jwt.net. The expired token exception was not thrown for expired tokens. So as you can imagine, even after the token gets expired, someone can actually make use of it, which is really bad, because there is no way to get a token expired except this EXP claim, or unless you change the signing key. So let's get to the demo part. So I'll be showing you a demo on the none algorithm. And let me start it. Yeah, so this is on none algorithm. So again, we have Strapi CMS running, and this time the target the library on the backend is using a vulnerable, and it can accept the none algorithm tokens. So here, firstly, we check if Strapi is running, and it is. Then we issue a token, and we are authenticated user having ID 2. And now we go to jwt.io and paste in our token. And if you set the algorithm to none manually, you will see that the token disappears. It is because jwt.io does not has any algorithm with none, so it cannot allow you to create none signed tokens. So now we'll generate it manually, since it's base64 URL encoded only. So we can pretty much use base64 utility on Unix and generate this token. So we decode this token, and then we encode it back again, You just have to make sure that you strip off the last equal to sign, and this is essentially the admin token. And you can see I have set the ID to 1 also. So now we have this admin token. We will use this token and create a user with admin privileges. So I'll paste in the token in the authorization header, supply the username as test, password test, email, some random email, and role must be set to 1. 1 second. I think, yeah. So the role must be set to 1, and that's the important part, because role 1 is corresponds to the admin user. So now you can see when I submit, I get a positive response saying that my user has been created and this user has admin privileges. So I can log in into the Strapi CMS and get any data which is stored in it. So let's head over to the admin panel of Strapi, which is at this endpoint /admin. I'll log in as test user that I just created, and you can see we have this flag content. So in this case, we had just had the flag, but you can imagine that if you get into a corporate account, you can find some interesting information there, like confidential records or something. So this was the demo on a none algorithm. So we saw how using none algorithm, you can actually get into the system and become admin and gain sensitive information. And now let's get back to the slides. 1 second. Yeah, so what are the remedies? So some preventive measures that could be taken by developers are, first and foremost, always update your libraries on a frequent basis and check for any security patches that are there. Then make sure that the token verification library does not accept any token signed using none algorithm. And update your signing keys periodically so that even if there are some unexpired tokens, they get invalidated. So these are some of the preventive measures that can be taken by developers. Then we have token cracking. So let's say I got a token which is signed using HS256 which uses HS256 algorithm. And what if the signing key is weak and predictable? So in this case, the attacker can actually run a brute force attack locally on the dot token, and they can retrieve the key if it is weak. And once they have the key, it essentially is like having keys to the kingdom, because they can create arbitrary tokens that are valid, and they can make themselves as admin or create another admin user and have access to the system. So the remedy here is to make use of strong keys and which are used to sign the token, and make sure that you rotate them periodically. So in case of symmetric signing algorithm like HS 256, 384, or 5 and 2, make use of keys that are 256 bit or at least 256 bit, that is 32 characters, and it must be random. And secondly, for asymmetric signing algorithms like RS256, EC256, etc., make sure that the signing keys, the private keys are like 2048 bits or more. So the demo. So in this case, I'll be showing you a demo where the signing key is weak and it is 4 digits in length, just so that we know what can happen if the signing key is weak. And here you go. So I'll be using a tool called Jwt Cracker to show the attack. Everything is similar. Strapi is running on the target server, and this time the signing key is weak. So the signing key has 4 digits ranging from 0 to 9. So let's get into the lab. Firstly, the regular drill. We'll check if Strapi is running or not. I'll speed it up. So Strapi is running. I'll issue myself a token using the provided credentials and check on jwt.io. So I can see I am a authenticated user since my ID is 2. You can even see an expiry claim here. So the token would get expired after a certain time, but let's not worry about it. Let's get back to the lab, and we will check some usage on Jwt Cracker tool. So it accepts the token, the alphabet that comprises of this key and then the maximum length of the key. So we know that key consists of 0 to 9 digits, and maximum length is 4. So we supply this, and you find that within a fraction of a second, we have this secret found, that is 0336. And now, since we have the secret key, we have the keys to the kingdom, we can paste in there, and you see the signature got verified now. Now you can create a force token. So I'll go and set the ID to 1. So in Strapi, we have the concept of ID. So we have three type of users. We have admin user having ID 1, authenticated user having ID 2, and public user having ID 3. So earlier we were authenticated user having ID 2, and now we became admin. So we have this admin token. Now I'll go and create a new user passing an admin's token, and I'll provide in the username and password that I want, and role must be 1. So I create a new admin user. So this way, using this user, I can actually log in to Strapi CMS and get my flag or any confidential information per se. So now we have that confidential information. So this is how, if you are using weak signing keys, what can happen. So an attacker can actually create arbitrary tokens and make themselves as admin. So back to slides. Now we have the third attack, that's token sidejacking. So in this case, if an attacker gets hold of your token, then they can impersonate your identity. So in the previous examples, we already saw that once we were able to create tokens for admin user, the admin tokens, then we were essentially acting as admin, and we were able to create our new users with admin privileges. So this is how important the tokens are. So you should make sure that your tokens are secure. Some ways by which attackers can grab your token are like traffic interception. So they can do some MITM attack if the website is using plain HTTP. And sometimes developers might, by mistake, supply their keys in the code repositories, the signing keys, or even the tokens, and even XSS. So this must not be. So in XSS, like attacker can grab the token from the local storage or the cookies, and then there is social engineering. So someone can ask you to click on a link, then they can load their malicious JavaScript and get the tokens from there. So some remedies here. I won't show a demo here because it's similar to the previous examples. Since we had the admin token, we were able to do the same stuff and log in by creating a new user. We can log into Strapi and get the confidential information. So in this case, some of the remedies are: make sure that the tokens are valid for a short span of time. Because even if they get compromised, the attacker cannot use them after a short span of window. So then avoid pushing any tokens or signing keys to code repositories. Enable HTTPS on your servers. Audit your code for vulnerabilities. It's a general advice, and you must follow this everywhere as much as possible. And then make use of cookies which have HTTP only attribute set, because as you might be knowing that you cannot steal a token with JavaScript if this cookie has HTTP only attribute enabled. And then make use of secure and same site attributes. These are good to have. Some preventive measures that could be taken by end users are: do not click on any suspicious links that are received from untrusted source. And I guess you must be knowing this. And do not provide access to your machines to untrusted parties. They might implant something, and then you are essentially compromised. So these are general advice. Then we have the last vulnerability, which is an interesting one. Let me not show you the text, but the images. So here we have an application again, and the backend is running Rails API. So the user passes in their credentials, and the server authenticates them and supplies them a Jwt token. In this case, the token supplied is RS256, which is RSA SHA-256. So the token is created using a private key and verified using the public key. In this case, when the user makes any further authenticated request, they pass in this same token in the authorization header, and the token is verified on the server end by using the public key corresponding to the private key used to create the token. If this token is valid, then then the API would generate a valid response for this authenticated request and send it back to the client. Otherwise, they would get a forbidden message or the login page. But let's bring in our attacker now. So when the attacker comes in, he will intercept, he'll take this token and he will force the token, let's say by visiting jwt.io, and he will he will modify the algorithm to HS256 and sign the token using the public key, because public key is public. And then he will send this forged token, which is now HS256 signed token, to the server. And since you can see the server is verifying it using the same key with which it is signed, so this will get this will get validated, and thus attacker can get their tokens accepted. And now the demo part. So there is a CV assigned to this vulnerability, and which is CV 2016 10555. So let me open the video on key confusion vulnerability, and let's get started. So we have a key verification mismanagement challenge on attack defense. So in this case, the backend library handling Jwt tokens is vulnerable to this issue, and we are given all the details required for us to log in. So we go in and like we have been doing, we issue a Jwt token, and then we go to jwt.io, and now we see that algorithm is RS256 in this case. And you can see that there is an issuer claim which states that who is the issuer who issued the token. So in this case, that entity is witrap.com. So you will find it commonly that they share the public key by embedding it in the certificate. There can be other ways, but in this case, we will find that the public key used to verify the token is embedded in the certificate. So we will go in and we'll visit witrap.com, and we'll download that certificate and extract the public key. So here we go, and we download the certificate. And in case you are a command line geek, so I have a command for you as well using OpenSSL utility. So we can send this, and we get the once you scroll up, you will find the certificate here. You can paste this in. So now we can use OpenSSL and extract the public key. Now we have the public key as well. So just in order to ensure that we are on the right track, we will just grab this public key and paste it in jwt.io and verify whether the signature is now, the token is now valid or not, whether it is being verified using this public key or not. And as you can see, it's verified. So we are in the right direction. We got this public key. So the next step as an attacker would be that I change the payload and paste it in here. So now I have set my ID to 1. I'm grabbing the key, the public key, and I have set the algorithm to HS256. I'm using PyJWT library to create the token myself. So when I create the token, I get this forged token. And now I should be able to create an authenticated user, and which is true. So now I'll head over to Strapi CMS and see if I have something there for me, which would be flagged. So I log in to Strapi CMS using this test user, and we get in and we have the flag. So as you can see, using this vulnerability, the attacker was able to create a valid token and create admin user on the server by getting admin user token. So let's get back to the slides. Yeah, so the remedy would be, as you can see here, the token verification step does not takes into consideration the algorithm which is used to sign the token. Here we use HS256 as an attacker, so the server should have used the corresponding key to verify the token, but it still used the public key, which is the issue. So the backend must use the verification key, which is based on the algorithm used to sign the token. So about the lab exercises that I showed, all the demos that I showed are present on attack defense, and we have beginner, advanced, and expert level labs on these. So currently we have 41 challenges on JWT topic itself, and I'll show you a short glimpse of it. before I conclude my talk. So, so on attack defense, you can find JWT labs. So in rest section, we have three categories: the basics, advanced, and expert level. And you will find each and everything which is there in JWT related to security and pen testing stuff. So I would recommend you should check these out. And there are some exotic attacks as well, like involving JKU claims, X5U, KID claims. Then we have overflow attacks and much more, like command injection, SQLi. So I would say you should take a look at it. Uh, and now I'll conclude my talk with the best practices that a developer must follow in order to avoid these issues, at least most of it. So first and foremost, make use of standard libraries and update them on a frequent basis. This is the general advice. And do not pass any confidential information in the token. Make sure that you set expiration time on the tokens using the EXP claim, and this would invalidate the token after the expiry time has been elapsed. Ensure that the code pushed to public repository does not contain any sensitive information like the tokens or signing keys. Make use of strong signing keys, and that must be resistant to brute force attacks. And then rotate your signing keys on a frequent basis. So that was it from my side. I hope you enjoyed the session and feel free to ask any questions. So I'll hand it over to you, Prateek.
So, thank you so much, Mr. Shivam Bathla, for this amazing talk. It was really deep, it was very advanced. I learned a lot of things and I'm really enjoying the sessions. So, guys, are you enjoying the sections? Please tell me in the comment section. Please tell me in the live chat. Are you enjoying the session? And if you are enjoying the session, please share this because we want maximum participation. This is day 2 and this is the last day you can have this much of amazing, interesting knowledge and productive here. Okay. So now this was the second talk. I hope you learned a lot. Like JWT is a very advanced topic, like many people think, and I don't know much about JWT as well. But learning a lot of things and diving deep into the concept and the encryptions and coding, decoding, and all, you might have learned what is JWT and how to decode it and why you should not store any personal or sensitive information in JWT tokens because it is confidential and sensitive information and it can be broken easily. So now let's move on to the next speaker. But before going on to the next speaker, let's appreciate our sponsors once again and let's roll out the intros and let me just share with you something about the speaker afterwards. Okay, so let's start the intros first. माइक ऑफ है ब्रो तेरा.
Hello everyone, this is Chenny. I'm really happy to be here and to participate. Hello everyone, this is Chenny. I'm really happy to be here and to participate in this ARPCon 2020. So today I would like to talk about the cloud penetration testing. So let's just get it started. Before we start this topic about cloud penetration testing, let me do a brief introduction myself. I work at Deloitte Consulting Risk Advisory as a senior security consultant. I'm a penetration tester, I'm a red team professional, and also I do SOC and analyzing jobs as an SOC engineer for the SIEM system building up and the asset investigations for tracing back to the attackers and some blue team works. I have the OSCP, OSWP, certificates as red team professionals, and also I have Splunk certificates as long as the AWS Cloud certificate. If you like to discuss more about security, please add me on Instagram and welcome to connect me on Twitter. Okay, so let me introduce something about today's agenda. So for today, I would like to talk about the cloud basics, to introduce the topic about what is a cloud, and then I will discuss some common issues that happen in the cloud environment and why do we need to care about the security. And thirdly, I will bring the topic about why do we need to do the cloud penetration testing and how to do the cloud pen testing as some like attacking skills, and what do we need to pay attention to. For example, like for wipe pen testing, we have to follow up like a OWASP security testing list to test about like the configurations, session management. So if we do this on the cloud environment, do we have to follow a similar procedures? That's what I will cover in the third part of today's video. And finally is our hands-on lab time. I will do a demo on a Vulnerable by Design lab that I built on an AWS environment to show you guys some hands-on skills about how to do the cloud pen testing. Okay, so the first part is, what is a cloud? As we know, the cloud refers to just other people's database, right? The cloud refers to servers that are accessed over the internet and the software and databases that run on those servers. The cloud servers are located in data centers all over the world. So by using cloud computing, users and companies don't have to manage physical servers themselves or run software applications on their own machines. So we know like there are three big cloud service providers like AWS Cloud, Google Cloud, and Azure. Of course, there are also some other third-party cloud service providers, but we mainly pay attention to the three big cloud service providers today. So the cloud enables users to access the same files and applications from almost any device, because the computing and storage take places on the servers in a data center instead of like locally on the user device. And this is why we can log into our Instagram account on a new phone after we replace our phone or our old phone breaks, and we can still find our old accounts in place. That all happens because of the cloud. And the main service models for cloud are three types: the infrastructure as a service, we call it IaaS, platform as a service, PaaS, and software as a service, which is SaaS. So let's start with the SaaS due to the shared responsibility models I will introduce later. So for the SaaS, is instead of users installing an application on our device, the SaaS applications are hosted on cloud servers, and users access them over the internet. So software as a service is like renting a house. Like the landlord maintains the house, but the tenant mostly get used to it. Just get used to the service we use, but we don't own it. What about the PaaS? So platform as a service. In this model, the companies don't pay for hosted applications. Instead, they pay for the things that they need to build their own applications. So platform as a service, the PaaS vendors offer everything necessary for building an application, including like development tools, infrastructure, operating system over the internet. So PaaS can be compared to renting all the tools and equipment necessary for building a house. So instead of like renting the house itself, the PaaS examples like including maybe Microsoft Azure, the Heroku, or Heroku, okay. And for IaaS, for infrastructure as a service, in this model, a company like rents the servers and storage they need from cloud providers. They then use that cloud infrastructure to build an application. So basically, this model is like a company leasing a plot of land. So it's leasing a land on which the users can build whatever they want. So it's like they need to provide their own building equipment and materials. For the IaaS providers may include like DigitalOcean, Google Compute, and OpenStack. And what are some common issues that happening on the cloud? The first is data exposure. We can see here some news that I took the screenshot from the internet. The first one is Accenture, the data breach from their S3 bucket that is exposing to the public. And second one is also a screenshot from the Amazon, the AWS announced that there like several S3 buckets are exposing to public due to the bad configurations, which is a really severity concerns that we have to pay attention to. And second issues that's very common happening in the cloud environment is the access key exposures. For the access keys in the cloud environment, we have the storage keys, API keys, and SSH keys to maybe the EC2 instance. And where we can find these keys, the biggest place is the public GitHub repositories. Like some developers may forget to hide the AWS access keys and may just include it in their like lab repositories, and that then we could just access their instance from the credentials we know. And then it's like a privilege issues. A normal user with excessive rights. From this picture, we know like a developer have the access to one virtual machines, but if there's like bad configurations or the bad IAM privilege configurations, he may have the access to another virtual machines that may have the excessive rights, which is not, that he should not be able to access that. And also the entry points to the internal network. That is the common issues happening in the cloud environment is from because the developers have the access to a virtual machines and virtual instance in the cloud, and the virtual machine in the cloud may have a VPN gateway that connects to the corporate network. If their attackers use some ways, he could do a pivoting just to use the VPN gateway and have to pivot into the internal network, may compromise the cloud host and pivot to inside. Okay, so from we just introduced about the three service models in the cloud, that's shared responsibility models now. The security in the cloud is tested, but not the entire security of the cloud. So for an example, in an ASP environment, as we see this part, the user access, identity, data, application, and operating system layers are in the scope, but not about the virtualization network and infrastructure and physical. The gray part are the service provider's responsibilities. So if we provide the pen testing services to the companies, we don't need to care about all the gray part. And also the scope for testing the applications differs from the service models. If it's a software as a service, we only need to care about the user access, identity, and the data part. And here's also the scope of the security in public cloud, because the public cloud and private cloud also differs. And we can divide the security testing in three parts: application, service, and account. So account security, like the lowest, the bottom layer, the account security is related to the user and access, the user identity and access management, and logging, maybe account level hardening practice, the cloud federation and single sign-on interface. And then the service. So is the service relates to the data structures and cloud infrastructures that can be configured by the cloud customers, like the S3 bucket policies and the EC2 provisioning and API, IAM access, and etc. And finally, it comes to the application data and business logic, which is the most important to the tenant on the cloud, because it's totally under the control of the end user. Okay, so let's jump into the demo time. So for the demo environment, I choose a cloud goat. So it's a vulnerable on-demand AWS environment and used to deploy a vulnerable set of AWS resources and to teach AWS security risks. You can, if you want to practice yourself after this video, you can find this link here. It's very Okay, so now let's move on to our hands-on demo part. So for deployment, for the CloudGo deployment, we could either deploy it on our local system, which we have to meet some prerequisites, like we have to install the Terraform, the AWS CLI, command line interface, and like some Python libraries requirements. But also we can choose to deploy it and use the CloudGo's Docker image. That's an easy way. That's what I choose to do it today. And besides this, I have also created an AWS account with a user email with an IAM user called CloudGoat. That's for today's demo. And also I give some permissions for these users, like the Amazon RDS full access, the IAM full access. So for this deployment, I wrote a configuration setup notes. Like first we have to create an AWS account, and then we create an IAM user and name it CloudGoat Manager, and add user to group with several permissions that we have to use for, and we configure the CloudGo profile on our Dockers. So let's just go ahead to configure it right now. With the Docker playground, we can just simply copy this CloudGoat tables. Okay, so specifically, since we already have this default profile name on it. So I'll just put no on here. And then we have to configure a whitelist for the IP address. So continue. See, the whitelist with IP address has been created. And now we have to configure the AWS access key and the secret key for this. So the access key is and the secret key is, so the default region name is, just choose the US East one. Okay, so I think now we're good to go. So let's just right now we can select a few like scenarios from the Cloud Goat. That we have the RCE web app, we have the Lambda privilege escalation scenario, we also have some EC2 SSRF. So I'll just go with the most complicated one that I think is good for your demonstration. Okay, so let's just copy this command line to create the vulnerable web app, and let's just wait a second for this to be done. Okay, so let's back to this demo. We see this creations, the lab has been already created, and we have some outputs coming from here, as well as like the AWS account ID and the access key ID. Because for these attacking scenarios, we have two attacking paths, and you can see we have two accounts created right here. One is Colaro and the other one is MacDog. So let's copy this outputs because we may need it for our attacking path. So when the build completes, and we can see for this web RCE exploiting lab, we have two attacking paths. One is Elara and one is MacDog. In the end, they will converge at some points that lead to the same results. So no matter which one you choose, they will end the same. So let's choose the Elara one. So we can just configure the Elara path. Let's put here. AWS configure Lara. Okay, similarly for our MacDog, we use the same way to configure as what we did for Lara. So we tap AWS configures as profile is MacDog this time. Also with an AWS access ID and the secret key that's just generated for us. So it's the default area is the US East 1. Okay. For the AWS security cloud environment, we want to check what is behind, what are the instances that are under MacDog. So let's just tap AWS EC2 and describe instances, and this for profile MacDog. And here it comes a list of the instances that are associated with the MacDog. We can see the scenarios, the RCE web app that we just deployed it on here. And the security groups is, we have one is SSH, port 2020, and the HTTP, which is port 80. So it's on the Ubuntu machines. So let's check about what are inside the S3 bucket that is also associated with the AWS instances. or that have the relationship with MacDuck is profile MacDuck. And here we see a bunch of the S3 storage buckets. Maybe a configurator is like mistakenly configured. That's why we have like everything in double. But let's just check one for each. That will be fine. So let's type the AWS S3 list, the S3 bucket name, and this profile is MacDuck. Okay, so luckily we found like the two things that are pretty like look like the public key and the private key, which we want to just to like store it locally. So let's copy it locally. First we make a directory and name it MacDuck. The city to MacDuck. Oops. Are we going? Can we make it? Can we make the directory right here? Okay, so I don't think maybe we have to cd it to cd to home. Okay, don't think we can make a directory here, but it's fine. Let's just try to copy the S3 storage and our S3, our file name is the cloud. It's the cloud goat. This profile is MacDuck. Okay, so we downloaded to the cloud goat. Similarly, we want to download the cloud goat public key. So let's try it one more time, and we also download it here. Now we can see here are two files. Let's check for each. So the cloud one, yes, that's a private key that we want to have. And the other key, if there's no doubt, it should be the public key. Yes. So with the private key and the public key, that we could have the access to the machine that is the MacDuck instance. Okay, so let's try to find the EC2 instance's IP address one more time. Describes the instances, and this profile is MacDuck. Okay, so we're going to find the public address, the public IPv4. So this one is the 54.91.121.156. Okay, so we can use the SSHI. The private key is the cloud goat, and the username for default instance on the EC2 should be Ubuntu, and finally here is the IP address. Okay, so we still have to permission denied because first is the 0644 for cloud goat are too open, so we should make it to 444 for cloud goat. It's still too open. Okay, it seems like the 700 is too open for the private key. So let's change mode to 400 plus cloud goat, and now let's try to do it one more time. And SSH-I it's not 400, it's gold is our private key. So the default username is Ubuntu, and also let's try to find the public DNS address. IPv4 is here. Okay, here we got to the Ubuntu machines. And we can see the files and the app file. So I just did a demo for this exploitations of one scenarios from Cloud Gold. There are also a lot of scenarios that you can play with, and because the one that I chose is like the hardest one. There are two exploitation routes. The one is like from Laurel, maybe like more difficult because it includes some web applications to use the RCE vulnerabilities and to add the public key to the web application with the RCE vulnerabilities, and finally there have the convergence point that to list the i3 buckets, find out the way, and eventually we gain the access to the instance. So this is a really good practice vulnerability lab. So if you want to do more cloud pen testing in the future, so I really recommend to download and to practice on your own. So that's all for today. Thanks for listening and watching. I'll see you.
Okay, I think I'm audible. I think my video is okay, live. Okay, so this was our third talk of today by Miss Chenny Ren for cloud computing. I hope you all liked it. I hope you all learned how to do pen test in cloud environment in AWS, and you all enjoyed it because I enjoyed it really much. I learned a lot of things on cloud because cloud computing I personally find it very difficult to do, and I don't know lots of things about it. But after this talk, I will surely go and try some things out and get my hands dirty on cloud. So this was a really great talk, and I am requesting you once again to just share this talk, share this link, share this live stream to all of your friends and all the people who like are in this field and wanting to have some great knowledge boost in their arsenal. So please share it, and we want more audience now. The ones who are watching it constantly, I salute you all, so that you are very means deliberate and motivated to learn many things. So now let's move on to our next speaker. Okay, so fourth speaker. Before we move on to our next speaker, we will roll out the intros of our sponsors once again. So let us thank our sponsors, appreciate them for their efforts, roll out the intros, and then we'll move on to our next talk. So let's get started. Okay, now it's time to move on to our next speaker, our next talk. It is really gonna have a lot of knowledgeful content and some advanced stuff here. So I'm going to introduce now to our next speaker. Basically, he is a penetration tester and a cybersecurity researcher at Invetech Global. He's a cybersecurity researcher. His name is Abu Safian Blay. He's a great guy, and he has a lot of knowledge content to share with you. So let's dive deep into this talk, which the topic is here, living off the land with PowerShell. So you are going to learn a lot of things with PowerShell, uh, how to do red teaming, because he's mainly involved in red teaming stuff. So you will learn how red teaming is done with the help of PowerShell. So that's really interesting. You should know all of this. So now let's welcome. This is a pre-recorded talk. I must say this is a pre-recorded talk. So if you want any questions, if you have any questions, if you have any doubts, so please you can ask on Twitter with Ask ARPCon. So he will try to reply to you. Okay, so let's start the talk now.
Today I'm going to be talking about living off the land with PowerShell Red Team. Who am I? I'm Blay Abu Safian, founder of Invitec Global, CTF team lead for Black Cybersecurity Association. If you want to communicate with me or link up with me, you can find me on Instagram, and this is my social media handle, Blay. And this is our website URL or company URL. So in this presentation, we are going to be talking about PowerShell, importance of PowerShell, living off the land, importance of living off the land with PowerShell, case scenario 1, Emotet Trojan. Then we'll have a live demonstration. Prevention and mitigation, question and answers. Thank you. So these are what we are going to be talking about today in this presentation. So when we talk about PowerShell, PowerShell is a multi-platform interactive command line and scripting environment. It is observed that adversary groups use new techniques for infecting systems with open source tools. PowerShell gets executed with higher privileges. So when we talk about higher privilege, we are talking about administrative right. This makes it quicker and easier for the attacks to be done on the network. So normally we realize adversaries or APT groups run malwares using fileless techniques. When we talk about fileless techniques, what we are trying to mean is basically an in-memory technique. It performs core functions without writing to disk during operation. So everything happens in the memory. So what are the importance of PowerShell? PowerShell is normally needed for automation of tasks. So when to automate processes in a system or an environment, it's preferably we use PowerShell since it's multi-platform and It's found in almost all systems. That's the Windows, Microsoft Windows systems. Even though we still have PowerShell commandlet in Linux distros and the rest. Secondly, we talk about configuration management. So when we talk about configuration management, installation of OS updates on a system on a corporate network takes time. You can't go around one by one to every computer trying to do OS updates. That's the operating system updates. Imagine we have 500 computers. We will have to find a smart way to do the updates without visiting each computer one by one. So an administrator can easily manage production with PowerShell. Accessing information. So when we talk about accessing information, we're talking about PowerShell providing access to file shares on a system. Thus, they make it easier to access secure data such as the Windows registry, etc. So what do we mean by living off the land? When we talk about living off the land, it means surviving in land only by available resources. So basically, when we look at our surrounding, we try to utilize resources which are in place or resources which are in our reach. And also, when we talk about living off the land in systems, living off the land in systems with PowerShell, we talk about um, the system utilities, the system utilities being utilized by we the attackers or APT groups or hackers. Yeah. So we try to utilize tools in the system or tools which can be found in the system. What are the importance of living off the land with PowerShell? One, we are trying to avoid detection from antivirus and endpoint detection and response system. So we try to be as stealthy as possible. So we try to hide from antivirus, or as we said, the endpoint detection and response system, so that it doesn't get hold of our script or PowerShell commands. Because in a live environment or corporate environment, as attackers, we will try to run malicious scripts which are necessary to compromise a system. So we try to remain as stealth as possible by utilizing the tools in the system. Also, we try to, secondly, using available or already available tools. So we know it's normally expensive to create tools, so we try to utilize the PowerShell command lets. Yeah. So we try to utilize them to our advantage or for our attacks. So in a real life scenario, we try to study the emotet Trojan, which was last seen, or which was first seen on January 1st, 2014. So according to this case study, we are going to be using emotet Trojan, which was last seen on the 3rd October 2020. So today is currently 3rd October 2020. So we can see there's a PowerShell command which is used by the hackers with a base 64 encoding. This is an obfuscation code or script. So we try to break it down. Here we try to break the script down, or the PowerShell commands. Okay, so let me explain something here. So here we know the group, or the hacker is trying to run a PowerShell command with no Windows PowerShell profiling. So the tag NOP means we don't need to load, or we don't want to load the Windows PowerShell profile. When we talk about the tag E, we are trying to accept base 64 encoding string with base 64 parameter. So that's basically the meaning of the parameters used here. So after we specify the acceptance of base 64 encoded string, we give a parameter here, or I should say a command which is encoded in base 64 to the parameter here. So as we can see, what the adversary is basically doing is trying to check and download binaries to the profile directory. That's the user profile directory. So the hacker is trying to check and upload the binary, which is the 184 executable file, into the user profile directory. And then we make a web request, or the hacker tries to make a web request to the following domains. So after the request is being made to the domains, the files are being downloaded and executed in memory on the system. So next is live demo. So let's try to do a simple live demo to understand what we try explaining earlier on. So let's shift over to our Kali Linux. So as we can see, we already have our environment ready. On the left side, we have our Metapreter session list already listened or connected. On the right, we have our command and control server ready. And down there, we do have our simple HTTP server listening on port 80. So we'll first try to get a shell access on the system. So as we can see, we have a shell access on the system. That's on our victim machine. Then we try to utilize the utilities or tools in PowerShell from the victim's machine. So we are connected to the victim's machine. We go over, we have we have a PowerShell script we wrote to do the first testing. Okay, so let's look at the script. Let me open a new tab. Let me open a new tab. So let's list. We can see we have the ARPCon.ps1. That's the PowerShell script. So let's try to cut and see what's in it. As we can see, write hosts living off the land with PowerShell, the same as this the program here. Okay. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to transfer this PowerShell script to our victim machine, which is the Toshiba machine, and see if we can execute it without touching disk. So we are referring to a fileless technique. Okay. So as we know, this is a PowerShell using the PowerShell utility with no profiling or Windows PowerShell profile. Then we try to set the command, which is we are trying to invoke expression, trying to make a web request, get the PowerShell scripts we wrote earlier on, and try to execute it all at the same time. So we copy it and go over to our Kali machine, or our terminal, sorry. What do? We paste it here and then we hit enter. So as we can see, the request was being made to our server, which we can see the IP address of our victim machine, the date the request was made, the time, the verb of the web request made, that's a get request, then the name of our file. When we look at the left side, we can see our file, or our PowerShell file got executed. We're able to read the file directly from memory. So the next task, we are going to get a reverse connection on our C2, that's the command and control server on the right. So we are going to do all this filelessly. Okay. So we are going to utilize the MSHTA, and then we make the web request to our IP address, which we know. Okay, let's check that out. ifconfig ethernet 0. Okay, so we have our IP address, or the IP address of the attacker machine, which is our Kali machine. So we are trying to make a request. We are trying to utilize the MSHTA utility in our victim machine to make a web request and get a reverse connection. We hit enter. Oh, okay, made a mistake. Sorry about that. We didn't specify the port. So how did we get to know the port? We realized we had 172.20.10.5 dot or colon 1111. So we send the request again. As we can see, we do have a reverse connection on our C2. That's the control and command server. You can see the working group and the user, which is Toshiba. So you can try to list. You can try to list on our right side. As we can see, we have the ID of 0, status 2.17, external IP, that's the IP of our victim machine, internal IP of our victim machine, the OS, which is Microsoft Windows 10 Home, 64 bits, architecture 64 bits, computer name, that's the desktop, IVTKV GK, then the username work group Toshiba. We list on, sorry, we use 0, use the ID. Now we are in our victim machine. We try to dir. As we can see, we are communicating with our victim machine. We do have an interactive session. So this technique is regarded as living off the land with PowerShell. So we utilize the utilities or tools in the Windows victim machine to our advantage. So what are some of the ways by which we can prevent and mitigate this? So we have to restrict or disable WinRM services to prevent remote connection with PowerShell. We also have to monitor for PowerShell assemblies like the System Management Automation DLL, sorry. When proper execution policy is set, the change of policy on the system can be detected since we are the people or the ones who set the policies. So in case you set the policy to strict and later on you realize the execution policy has been changed to bypass, you realize it has been tampered with. So any question, if you do have any question, feel free to communicate with me or the organizers of the conference and we'll try our best to answer them. Thank you. Thank you once again for joining.
So the fourth talk is over. And I appreciate the efforts of Mr. Abu Safian for this talk and diving deep into the world of PowerShell for red teaming. We learned a lot of things, and I hope you will apply it in your practical work because there was a lot of practicals, there was lots of hands-on, and it really worked good. So, thank you, Mr. Abu, for your talk. Okay, so now let's just move on to our second last, or you can say fifth number talk. But before we go on to our next speaker, let us again appreciate our sponsors. Let me just list the name of our sponsors, our beloved people, for their efforts and offerings for us. Our sponsors, namely Hack the Box, Offensive Security, Try Hack Me, Yes We Hack, Tester Academy, Integrity, Detectify, Buckcrowd, and Spice. I thank all of them sincerely from my heart for their efforts. So let's just roll out some intros and then we'll move on to our next speaker again. So let's get started. बहुत गंदा echo हो रहा है.
So hello guys. Our next speaker is Vismit. The topic is scary roads of darkness. This talk is pre-recorded. So let's deep dive into it.
Thanks for joining. So let's begin without wasting time. So I think thanks for joining. So let's begin without wasting time. So I think most of us they saw or heard or attended any auctions. Okay. So the simple rule is whoever bid the highest got that particular product. So I think the mostly auctions they carries like antiques or some products. Okay, but when we are talking about a Tor or a dark web, we can I think say like okay, you can get slaves over there, drugs, you can get guns, you can get fake passports, currencies, everything is there. Okay, human trafficking is the main issue when we are talking about such things. So I think I recently wrote an article like a model who got kidnapped. Okay, they just offered like okay, they just offered her like okay, just come to that particular place and we will pay you that much. Okay, and when she visited over there, so basically they kidnapped her and later on they released her because they are having rules like okay, they didn't kidnap a mother or a pregnant woman. Okay, so I think we can't imagine such things like okay, there will be like thousands, okay, or more than that, like okay, human slaves over there and one can purchase them, and we don't like okay such things. So without wasting time, like okay, who am I? My name is Vismit Rakchecha, aka Drug. I am CH, CHFI, CCI Security. I'm currently working as Senior Security Analyst at Avalon Health International. I'm Untitled Chapter Lead. So before starting, I just want to thank Rama, my mom and dad, wife, team ARPCon, especially. So disclaimer, I don't own any of the images. Okay, I just googled it and just used it, so please don't come to me like having some copyright issue and everything. Whatever I am demonstrating is for educational purpose only. I am not responsible for anything. Research was conducted by me and does not reflect the vision of Avalon Health where I am working. So my topic name is Scary Roots of Dark Web. So what is Tor? Let's start with a bit of history. The concept of onion routing was first proposed in 1995, where it was first funded by the Office of Naval Research and later held by DARPA in 1997. Since then, funding for the Tor project has been provided by a number of different sponsors. So basically this is the history of Tor. So okay, what is Tor circuit when we are talking about a Tor? So the main thing is the anonymity. So how that particular circuit works. Okay, so basically the Tor circuit is combination of entry guards or the relays we are seeing. So we are having an entry relay, middle relay and an exit relay. Okay, there is a bridge node also, so that we will discuss later on. So basically this is the module I am talking about. So we are having a Tor client who is using Tor browser, then it's going to the entry guard, then it's going to middle guard or relay, then it's going to exit relay, and then it's going to the destination, so whatever website you are accessing. So just let's talk about the entry guard. So it is the entry guard of the Tor network. So each client that want to connect to the Tor network will first connect to the antinode. Okay, then they can see the real IP address of the client who attempts to connect. And I just want to show you this thing. So these are basically a list of most of the entry guard you can find over here. Now let's talk about the middle guard. The middle guard is like the main thing when we are talking about a Tor circuit. So middle relays cover most of the part of the Tor circuit in any given transmissions. Okay, they consist of relay through which the data is passed in encrypted format, and no node knows more than its like previous node and the exit node. So all the available middle relay nodes show themselves to a guard and exit nodes so that any may connect to them for transmission. So basically the main thing when we are talking about the Tor circuit is the middle relay. Now let's talk about the exit relay. The exit relay is the final relay in the Tor circuit. They are the nodes that send the data to the destinations. Okay. Now what are bridges? Just give you a brief idea about bridges. So bridge, as the name suggests, okay, bridges are basically nodes which are not listed on the public directory of the Tor nodes. Okay, in most of the countries where Tor is blocked or censored, so over there mostly they are using bridges over there. So most of the entry and the exit node are publicly available on the internet. Okay, and therefore they can be blocked if one wishes to. Most of your IP address, your ISPs, they block that particular IPs. So for that we are using bridges. So I will show you a few things over there. Let's go. So as I already told you, so these are the entry relay list. So if you are going to bridges.torproject.org/bridges, so you can find like a list of the bridges, so you can use that. I will show you how to use that. And if you want to search a relay, so there is again you can use Tor project and you can search like, okay, for a bridges, just take an example like hello, search it. Okay, so these are the relays. You can use the IP addresses and you can check the port numbers also. One more thing I want to show over here is like Tor flow. So you can see like, okay, this much package right now are transferring through Tor. Now I just want to continue with the DA, directory authority. So who selects that relays? Like, okay, because Tor is an open project, so anyone can be a volunteer. Okay, so basically the DA is responsible, okay, to select that particular relays. You can say like they are just gatekeepers that choose what relay are valid and when. Okay, so basically I think 10 Tor nodes run by trusted volunteers. These nodes have a very special role to maintain the status of the entire Tor network. So why 10? Basically we know like it's usually a bad idea to have an even number, okay, of the things voting on something, since there could be a ties. So you will recall that in the previous I think, yeah, in the previous, like when I'm talking about the bridges, I mentioned over there like, okay, the master list of the relays and the master list of the bridges. Okay, there is like this is where the split happens. The 9 of the DA maintains the master list of the relays, while the 1 DA maintain the list of the bridges. So basically that's how it works. Okay, it's consists of like 10 volunteers who is basically maintain everything. So basically what are the advantages of the Tor, why we are using a Tor? So the very first is anonymity. Okay, you can access .onion website. Okay, there are lots of knowledgeable articles available, blogs available, ebooks available, okay, which you can't able to access with your normal net, clean net, what we can say. And these are the disadvantages, like human trafficking is there, drugs is there, child pornography, human trafficking, porn. You can even hire a hitman over there. So these are basically like disadvantages of that. And the most, what we can say is the most horrible part of that dark web, we can say, is like porn. You can hire a hitman, red rooms, child pornography. So how to get a .onion domain? So let's talk about that. The .onion domain is generated in base 32 with a 16 character length, hashing the public key from the key pair generated with the service. Okay, so basically like the .onion domain is totally free. I think while googling a bit, I just saw a few service providers. They are providing like, okay, get a .domain onion, and like that much dollar, this much dollar. So it's just don't get into that. So .onion domain is totally free and you can start your own web application like that. So I will just show you that. So go to your Tor browser. Tor. So, browser. Okay, so here is the link: Tor browser, then Tor browser data, and then Tor. This is a torrec file. Just open it. So basically we will start our hidden service. So what I wrote, like hidden service, the path, okay, wherever you want, you have to create make a folder with the name tor underscore service, hidden port 80, localhost 80, whatever port you want to use, you can use over here. Save it. I'm using web server 7, so I already put over here localhost port number 80. Okay, apply. Let's start the tor. Okay, sorry. It will take some time. I already made that, so I will just show you that. Here's the Tor services. You can see the host name. Here is the .onion domain. Okay, so you can just create your website, put your index file in whatever web server you are using, and you can start your .onion domain. Okay, so the thing is that, like, if you don't like that domain, you can create as much as you want, okay, till that you get your preferred one. Okay, so here is our tor, and let's see, just take an example. I already bookmarked few websites. Again, I am saying I'm not responsible for anything, it's just for educational purpose. Okay, so till that we will go ahead due to the shortage of time. So these are the search engines I think mostly you can use while searching on Tor. Onion.ct is there, onion.to, Notable, Mimix, Surfwax, Freebase, and TechDeep Web. I think my favorite is TechDeep Web. Now coming to the main part of our topic, like what is forensic? So we can say like forensic is the process of uncovering and investigating the data. If we are do a forensic analysis on a jar, so what we will get, like we will get site visited, we will get user account, we will get IP addresses, downloads, bookmark, last execution. So how we will get that? Let's go to our, firstly I will show you like okay what is the file structure of Tor. Okay, so these are the files. So you can go to like Tor browser, Tor browser data, and Tor. So the most important files, okay, what mostly we are looking for is state. Okay, what the state contains. Let's open it. Okay, so state will show you okay when you last executed that Tor. So you will get a detail over here. Then there is a torrec file. We already discussed about that. So torrec file will give you the information like the path of the Tor browser, and if you are hosting any of the hidden services like any web application or something like that, so you will get a information over there. So these two are the main files mostly when we are looking out. Then I am going to the browser part. By default it will create a profile.default folder. We are going into that. Okay, there are lots of files, like mostly we will check like okay when we are doing a forensic analysis of Tor. So the two files mostly we are looking for is compatibility.ini. It contains the user profile, okay, like okay the last platform of dir, your application, okay, the version what we are using, the same thing execution extensions. Most file, the same thing contain extension dot ini thing. I mistakenly deleted that. So the same thing contains in the extension dot ini file. So I just required one tool over here. I'm using SQLite browser. Let's open the database. I can directly drag and drop from here. So places.sqlite, go to browser data, let's check out. Okay, So in the browser, I bookmark these three websites. Okay, when I added that, okay, you get the date over here, last modified, the GUID. So we'll get lots of information over here. History visited, there is nothing. Okay, the places. So I visited this 5 web applications. Okay, the URL hashes you can get. Reverse host, we don't require that. Okay, last visited, nothing is there. So we'll get like, okay, all the visited web application, okay, what I visited over there, and if I did something or purchased something XYZ. So like most of the details you will get in the places.sqlite file. Okay, you can check out form.history. If I filled any form or something like that, okay, nothing is there. Cookies.sqlite file, again there is no cookie available for that, otherwise you will get the details over there. Yeah, FabCon, we'll get lots of details over here, like, okay, because it saves the FabCon. So I visited like a smokers, crypto to me, then the store, okay, by default. So basically you get lots of information, like, okay, about the, if someone did any crime, like, okay, the website he visited or she visited, okay, if he just made fill out some forms, if he made some what we can say, a payment or like that. So you will get lots of information over here. Okay, so without wasting time, okay, hope you just understand. Okay, so now talk about like what is chat secure. Okay, I just want to cover that part. Okay, so chat secure is basically a chatting application. Okay, your Android or your iOS. Okay, and basically on the Tor extension or a plugins you can use, and basically, so if I do a analysis of a Tor chat, okay, so I will get like IP addresses, okay, the chat, okay, and everything over there. Okay, so okay, I want to show you. Okay, I used a damn good tool known as Mobile Go Publisher. Okay, and you require a rooted device, so my tab is already rooted. So there are a few other options, like you can go for like tamp root, or that basically temporarily root your device. Okay, but I'm not responsible for anything. Okay, and so what I did, I just copied that file already. Okay, so you will get file something like info.guardianproject.utr.app.im instant messaging. Okay, so let's see, these are the files. So mostly what we are focused is on the database and files again. So let's check out the database file over here. Just again, same, the db file is there. So I just, so account status is nothing. Accounts, so I got the account of like dtest505. okay, Google, next, Android metadata, avatars, so that's my personal email. Blocked list, so I didn't blocked anyone. The main part is chat, so I chatted, there is one. Last unread message is hello. My contact list, so I get buddies, there is one contact list. Yeah, so the nickname is Vismit, the username is rvismit at the rate gmail. It's nothing. There's, I think, group members. There's no group members. There is no invitations. If suppose someone send you an invitation, so you will not. Messages, that's the main part. So we'll get all the messages over here. So hello buddy, how are you? Hello. So all the messages you will get over here. Okay, there's no outgoing messages. I didn't send anyone. Okay, and presence, right now the present is, there is one contact ID, that's it, nothing else. And is no session cookies. So basically you will get lots of information, okay, and it's stored in the clear text. So if suppose someone made any crime, so you will get lots of information over here, and basically definitely help you when you are doing some forensic analysis or someone made any crime. So basically that's all I want to show you. Okay, when, and I'm having a shortage of time, so if you are having any issues, because
Okay. So now we are done with our fifth talk. Thank you, Mr. Uh, Vishmit, for your valuable talk on dark web, Tor browser. It was really interesting and very much fun to learn. And I assure, I like hope that you will use it in a responsible way. Don't go to the dark web if you don't have a strong aim or a goal to fulfill. Just go for learning. Don't do any illegal things, because dark web, accessing dark web is not illegal. But if you are doing something illegal, like what all things are being happening there, like many illegal things are there. But if you are involving that activities, that is illegal. Means accessing is not illegal, but you should remain anonymous as much as you can and use it responsibly. Please don't make it a hype to go to the dark web and doing stuff and telling that I did something that was really cool. That is not cool. You can end up in really bad situation. So please use it responsibly. And now uh, we shall move on to our concluding talk of ARPCon 2020. Okay, so this is our last talk and conference of this topic. Let me introduce you to our last speaker here. Our speaker is Irfan Ahmed, and he is a professor of computer science at Virginia and a security researcher. Okay, so he's an experienced guy, and he will be speaking on a topic named using RAM as a playground to explore OS kernel level attacks. So this topic, from the topic you can decipher that this is going to be really advanced level, and you need to pay attention to just listen to it. So please build some hype for our last speaker, for our last talk of ARPCon 2020. So please, let's get started without any further ado.
Hello, I'm Irfan Ahmed. I will talk about exploring OS kernel level attacks. Mainly, the idea is to use RAM as a playground to manipulate or modify the RAM contents and observe the behavior of the kernel and applications that may lead to new or existing vulnerabilities. So, a little bit about me. I'm an assistant professor at the Department of Computer Science in Virginia Commonwealth University. It is in Richmond, Virginia, which is a state capital city. I'm also a faculty fellow at VCU Cybersecurity Center. It is the center mostly focuses on multidisciplinary research. I also run a security and forensics engineering lab It's a research lab, mostly focusing on cyber physical systems, system security, digital forensics. We develop automated, offensive, defensive cybersecurity solutions to explore new vulnerabilities, um, reverse engineering software, network, analyze, assess malware, develop digital forensic tools, improve or utilize system virtualization. So here in this presentation, I will be mostly focusing on system virtualization. And what does that mean is the additional layer of hypervisor between the operating system and hardware that allows um, uh, creating execution environments that we call virtual machines. So this hypervisor, let's say your VMware, VirtualBox, Xen, KVM, they are examples. And they job is to create those execution environments or virtual machines and also maintain isolation among them running on same hardware. So each virtual machine has an operating system and runs applications. So it's a very typical environment. These days are getting very common to explore different cybersecurity aspects, attacks, defense, analyze malware. So we also try to use this environment and see if that will help us to explore different OS kernel level attacks. So just to give you an example, let's consider a rootkit, a FU rootkit, and its main function is to hide a process from a list of processes. So generally, let's say a user application, for example, task manager, if it asks a kernel for a list of processes, kernel maintains a doubly linked list. It just traverses the list and give you the list of processes. Let's see here, process one, process two, process three. The task manager now can show you in its graphical user interface. Now, when you run the FU rootkit, and let's say you want to hide process two, then it mainly manipulates uh, the pointers um, on the adjacent nodes. Here, the process one and process three nodes have a forward link and backward link pointers. It modifies the pointers to delink the process two in the list. So for example, after the FU rootkit, now flink pointer is now pointing to process three, not process two. Similarly, backward link pointer is now pointing to process one and not process two. So when the kernel traverses this list, it will only get process one and process two, and process three, and process two will not be visible or accessible to the kernel. So for example, here, just an illustration of this attack. If here I have started a Notepad application, and here you can see in the task manager, you have notepad.exe, and it has a process ID 2292. So after I run the FU rootkit, you can see now the 2292 process is no longer visible, but still the Notepad application is running, and the attacker can keep using it. Now to replicate this attack, when we run the FU rootkit, so it's a kernel module, it loads into the memory and then does a lot of stuff to modify the kernel. Now, for this presentation, we present the idea of virtual machine introspection. It has been around for a while, and what we propose is to use the introspection capability and modify the RAM contents like you modify a file. So for example, there is a privileged virtual machine that can access the contents of the RAM from outside the virtual machine. So if you look at the FU rootkit, the code runs inside the environment that the kernel module tries to manipulate. Now, in this case, that code runs outside the environment that is being manipulated. And here, the privilege VM, you write a simple tool or script that uses the introspection capability, and with the help of a hypervisor or virtual machine manager, you access the RAM contents of a target virtual machine and modifies the contents. So in this case, for example, your VMI tool can just directly go to the memory and modify those forward and backward link, and uh, should be able to demonstrate the FE rootkit directly, or mimic the core functionality of the FE rootkit, which is about modifying those pointer values. So to implement this environment, the libvmi is common. There are APIs offered by uh, hypervisors that you can also use. Um, So with the libvmi, for example, the one that I have explored for a while, you can use CPU registers, can read and write to the memory, different memory locations of a virtual machine. Pretty much it's like reading and writing to a file, so you could modify any content in the file, and also you can do it through physical or virtual address, both. So for example, if you want to modify the RAM contents in the memory, and let's say you want to mimic the FE rootkit, what you have to do is to access or reach out to the first node in the W linked list of processes, and then find the target process, identify the adjacent nodes, and modify their forward and backward link. So in this case, with the VMI, from the outside of the virtual machine, you have modified those pointer values, and now it's dealing. And within uh, the virtual machine, you will see the impact when you run the virtual machine. You can also pause the virtual machine while modifying those contents, and then resume the virtual machine to see the impact. You can also modify the contents while the virtual machine is running. Now, let's say if you modify it in a way that destabilize the kernel, then at worst it will crash the virtual machine, and probably it will restart and hopefully restore. So that's the key advantage. While you are outside the environment and modify the RAM contents as you like, you can explore different possibilities and see how the kernel behaves. Now, just to give you, I will give you a few more examples before I end, and to help you understand the capability. So, for example, now we are able to modify the contents. The key is to understand how the contents are organized, what are the data structures in in the content that we want to modify, and then come up with a strategy to modify them that may have an impact, or explore a particular vulnerability or kernel behavior. So for example, let's look at this privilege escalation attack. It's being presented for a while at Black Hat. uh, it mainly bypass Windows APIs. So the idea here is a process has a certain set of privileges that tells us what it is capable of doing. So for example, the privileges could be SE backup privilege, debug privilege, load driver privilege, shutdown privilege. So if these privileges are present in a process token, then the process can perform these functions, and the kernel will allow the process do it. Now, in this attack, the attacker can enable more privileges and make the process perform more tasks. Now, generally, when you use the APIs provided by the Windows and try to obtain or enable more privileges, those APIs perform certain checks. So, for example, if you use adjust token privilege API, it checks if that particular privilege is present in the process before it can be enabled. If it's not, it will not be enabled. Similarly, let's say there is a get token information API, which can give you a list of privileges that are present and enabled by the process. So it will look into the present bit, and and then also the enable bit to give you the list. Now, this particular attack exploit a vulnerability in Microsoft kernel, where if a certain privilege is enabled, but even if it's not present, the kernel will still let the process use it. So for example, mainly it's the data structure SAP token privilege. And here, if you look at, there are three types of bits. Well, one is present bit, enabled bit, and enabled by default bit. So if the present bit is not enabled or is not set, but still if somehow the attacker can set the enabled bit, then the kernel will let you use um, that process, that particular privilege. So if you're using VMI, virtual machine introspection, and try to modify um, uh, those fields enabled, specifically if you want to set the enabled bit, mainly what you do is you traverse the list of processes, identify the process that you want to alleviate the privilege. Then the process data structure has a field, it's a token that takes you to the token data structure. Within the data structure, it has a privilege field that has SAP token privilege that we have just seen, and you can also see it here. And this privilege token data structure has this present, enabled, and enabled by default bits. So what you do is you go to the enabled bit and set it up, and that will give your process more privileges, and then you can test it by running your process do these other privilege activities or actions. So, for example, here, if you look at, you have enabled all the privileges, but your present bit is not there. So the benefit here is since the typical Windows APIs, they look for the present bit to show you the privileges. For example, here the get token information. So even if you have enabled the enabled bit but did not set the present bit, then these APIs will not show these additional privileges that are enabled because their present bit is not set. And that's the interesting part here. So if you look at in this data structure, the present bits are not set, default bits are not set, but enabled bits are all set. So which means all the privileges are given to this process, and the kernel with this existing vulnerability allows the process to use those privileges. Now there is another example I just want to present before I end. So here it's about process environment variables. So generally, when a process is created, it inherits environment variables through its parent process. So here what I did is I have created a variable named toChange, and it has value VMI vars. So after that, when I have started a process, the process should have this variable with this value VMI vars. Right? Now, generally, the process cannot change this variable value after it inherits from the parent process. But through VMI, we can change the variable value to something else. Now, how we could do it? So generally, to access to the variable uh, process variable contents, there is a data structure process environment variable uh, that has a field process parameters. It's pointing to the data structure RTL user process parameters. So if you further look into this data structure, what you get is it has another field environment that has a pointer to the process environment variables. So if we further inspect um, this pointer value, then what we see is if you look at here, all the fields, all the process environment variables are here. So all you have to do is to search that particular variable or the value that you want to change and replace it with something else through introspection. So it means you're writing from outside the virtual machine, accessing the RAM contents, accessing the process environment variables of the process, and then change the value from VMI vars to something else. So for example, in this case, if you look at here, I have started a calculator process, and through Process Explorer, if you look at the bottom here in this figure, you can see the variable toChange. and it has the value VMI vars. Now this VMI vars um, is inherited by the calculator process through VMI. I managed to change it to malware, right? So now the value is changed to malware. And that was simple, just using these three data structures, reach to this value in the memory and just modify it. So I have made available some of these scripts at my lab's website. It's a gitlab.com safe lab. So you could go and check this VMI toolkit scripts. So it has several different scripts that can modify process environment block, kernel application, and has some scripts for return-oriented programming. So feel free to set up the environment that I have showed to you and run these scripts. Also, if you need this presentation or have any questions, please feel free to contact me. At my email ID is the best way to contact me, and I'll respond to you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So, am I'm audible? Black screen. Yeah. So, finally, this was the last talk of day two of our ARPCon Conference 2020. I would like to thank Mr. Irfan Ahmed for his amazing talk on such an advanced topic, kernel level attacks. It was really interesting for us to know. So here we finally come to an end to ARPCon 2020. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I hope everyone learned something new. And we just wanted to build a community. We just wanted to bring some valuable people together, and we tried our best. Okay, so I hope that you liked it, and if you liked it, the event was successful. So now not much time is left. I would like to thank everyone who was involved in this one, especially first of all our team members, Mr. Pratik Dabi, for his initiative, who brought us together, who brought the teammates together, the like-minded people, and decided this conference, and integrated ourselves to make this event and think this idea for all of you. And it was great having such a great team with us, Mr. Ritik Sani, Deep Tech, and all the team members. Especially thanks to SpeedX for the infrastructure management of CTF. It was great this time, and we didn't face a lot of issues there. And also Mr. Ishan Singh for his graphic designing. That was really next level. He's a pro in graphic designing and penetration testing as well. And Mr. Mrunal Chawda for making so hard challenges for CTF. All of them were great, and it was a great time with all of them. Thank you all the team members for their efforts. Without them, nothing was possible. It was a team effort. So next, thank you all of our sponsors for offering this things to us, and your efforts and your help, everyone who was involved, everyone who contacted us, and we contacted them, and the event was because of them that they offered something. And this was our sponsors. And next, thanks to our speakers as well, because they gave us so much valuable content that we can fulfill in our talks, and we can put in our conference, because without them the conference was void. Nothing was possible. Like, for the content, that is the main thing, that was the content here. So for the content, thank you everyone, every speaker. Their talks were amazing. Every topic was something that was something new for us, that was not very mediocre or something like that. Everyone was unique, and all of them were great. And lastly, I will thank our audience for coming here and making us feel happy to be a part of this, to make us feel that this was something which was really good for all of you, that this meant something to you and you learned something. And the only reason we did this was the awareness that is required in this field of cybersecurity. Everyone needs that, and in India we lack this. So we wanted to uh, make people come together and share something with you and guide you and help you in growing in cybersecurity. We all grow, we all as team members also we grow, we learn many things by organizing this conference and by like with you all, like how to deal with people, how to organize an event, everything which was taught by this conference, self experiences and all. So it's not that you learn something as audience, but we also learned as a team member or as an organizer. So that was really great for us. And I'm not I can make you like, we hope that next year we will again host this conference for you all people. And I know you all liked it. I can read from the chats that your response is amazing. The whole 2 days, the environment was very good, including the CTF. All the 3 days went really well, and I don't know what to say. I just want to say that the knowledge that I gained personally was really very helpful to me. I will just go to bug bounties now and some uh, crack some bounties and find some bugs and grow myself personally in cybersecurity as well. So okay, so now let's bid adieu to all of you people. It was great time with you all, and the guy who hosted the conference with me, Mr. Pratik Devi, is really very close to me, and I would like to thank him personally for this conference as well. And it was not possible without him because he gathered all the speakers and sponsors, and the task that he did was really admiring. So let us go, let us not be sad. Yeah, it do feel sad to say goodbye to all of you, but we will come again with a similar conference, with a similar talk, with everything that we did here we will do again. We hope in the future, maybe offline, we will do it offline. That would be more interesting. Because of this situation we are doing it online, but we'll try to do it offline as well. Okay, everyone was superb here. And now finally I will end this live stream, and I hope to see you more in cybersecurity again. And if you have any doubts, if you have anything related to ARPCon, if you want to give feedbacks or your reviews or your suggestions, if you have anything, you can mail us to arpcon3@gmail.com. We will reply it. We will consider it from the bottom of our heart. And we thank you all. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you so much for being here. And we all like admire everyone that is being a part. So thank you so much. Have a great day ahead. Shubhratri, namaste. Thank you so much, all of you, and have a great career in cybersecurity. That's all I can say from everyone, on the behalf of everyone, the whole team of ARPCon. Thank you so much, and keep doing, keep going, keep learning, and keep growing yourself. God bless you. Thank you so much. Goodbye.